What do you guys think about President Trump's speech? I just saw they blew up a bridge where President Trump posted a video of it. So let me actually, his speech, a lot of it was expected. President Trump came out and he thanked UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. He was basically, very annoyed with the like Europeans, and he's trying to use Saudi, Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain are in President Trump's, good books right now, and European countries and Canada are in his bad books. So he he didn't talk about negotiations or ceasefire at all, and talked about how he would have never let the Islamic Republic become nuclear. And more important than all of them, he said that if the Islamic Republic doesn't agree to his terms, he's going to send them back to the dark ages. So basically a heavy, like a suggestion that infrastructure is going to be targeted in a way that we haven't seen before. And he's talked about the fact that all of this is going to be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And just now, I'm seeing that he posted a video of one of the biggest bridges here. If you look at this, to show that he is not, messing around, he just posted a video of the biggest bridge in Iran comes tumbling down, never to be used again. Much more to follow. It is time for Iran to make a deal before it is too late, and there's nothing left of what still could become a great country. President Donald J. Trump. So we're seeing the infrastructure being targeted now, and he says like he means this is not a bluff. Like that's what he's trying to show. The thing is that I don't know who this is directed at, because the Islamic Republic doesn't give a shit about the infrastructure, right? Like this, if this is supposed to convince the Islamic Republic to come on, I mean, they do. I mean, they do give a shit, but only to the sense that this is meant to generate revenue for them. But if there's no them, then they don't give a shit, right? Like if they agree to, from their perspective, if they agree to the terms of this deal, that would be the end of them. And what would they care about the infrastructure? Why would they care about the infrastructure if they're not there around to take advantage of it at that point, right? In that sense, they don't care. The between accepting the deal, between accepting the deal and losing the infrastructure, they will go for losing the infrastructure every time. And I don't know if people understand that from the Islamic Republic's perspective, if they accept the terms of this deal, which is basically the same as the term of surrender from their perspective, they have no more legitimacy left among their own followers. And I think people are underestimating how important that is to the Islamic Republic. Like we keep talking about it, but I think people are like, yeah, I guess that's a nice thing to have among their own followers, legitimacy. That's everything. That is everything. And we know that that's everything because of the level of what the Islamic Republic does to try to maintain this image among its followers that they're winning. That is more important than the Suez Canal. That is more important than, you know, if for example, let me tell you how important this is. If you went to the Islamic Republic, it's like, hey, would you like it if one of your missiles hits the USS Abraham Lincoln, and that one missile sinks the USS Abraham Lincoln, and it becomes all over the news that, oh, we like the Islamic Republic managed to just sunk for some magical way one of the aircraft carrier strike groups, but the price is that you lose, like, your followers abandon you and they don't support you. Like, you would think that they would love that, right? They would be the most, they would never make that deal. Like, what do you mean? Like, how would we be able to survive without our followers, right? The Islamic Republic's main priority right now is to say Mujtaba is alive and healthy, and that we have a supreme leader, and the Iranian people love him and they're loyal to him, and the anti-regime people are just a few people, and that do not represent the Iranian people, and to create this fake narrative that they're strong, that they're powerful, that they could make the whole world bend the knee to them, and they have the entire world's economy in their control. And now the whole world is now realizing how powerful the Islamic Republic is. They're punishing the Americans, they're punishing the Israelis. The American and Israelis have walked into a trap that they can't get out of. Like, if you think that they're telling this to impress us or impress the world, it is not for that. It's to impress their own followers because they need them. Okay. When it comes to political power, we have three types of political power: is military power, economic power, and people power. And even the military power and economic power, it all comes down to using that to create some sort of, like, no tyrant. I mean, you could have a tyranny with 5% support of the people, but you can't have it with, if that 5% gets close to 0%. Like, if that 5% gets to 4%, to 3%, to 2%, no tyranny will be able to even survive that. You need some base of support. And this is why I don't see the Islamic Republic accepting this deal unless you give them a deal that they could, like, seek, like, that they could somehow sell it as a victory. And right now, the things that President Trump is asking for is unsellable as a victory for the Islamic Republic. If they agree to them, it will become obvious that they have surrendered, and they cannot have that. And that's why I think, like, the infrastructure in Iran is right now in serious danger, because I don't see the Islamic Republic surrendering, and President Trump has made a clear threat that they're going to send the Islamic Republic back to the Stone Ages. They already, by the way, if you guys don't know, bombed this factory, which is the number one steel manufacturing company, built by the Pahlavis in Iran, and it was one of the biggest in the world, actually, when it comes to steel manufacturing, and now it's out of business. It's bombed, and so many people are not showing up for work for that right now. That's a huge economic cost. So it seemed like, I don't know if there's anything that could stop any of this, but right now it seems like we're going to be heading towards a lot of infrastructure being destroyed in Iran. So what do you guys? I mean, I don't know unless I'm missing something. So what do you guys think? I see some twos in the chat. So
Yeah, Jeffrey, why
yes.
don't you come up?
Yeah. Hey, Armin. Hey, everybody. So, all very good points. I'll touch on some of them. Sorry, I got some agita. So, President Trump's not angry at all of NATO or all of Europe. He's just angry at Western NATO powers like France and Great Britain and those that are free riding for the very reasons you outlined. Indeed, that's in no insignificant manner because a lot like US is very much tired of certain Western European and or NATO members of NATO free riding under the U.S. security umbrella. Adversaries are going to try and probably use that to further or like that legitimate anger to further weaken NATO. Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, Coms, Mullahs, whatever. So that's an issue. As far as targeting dual purpose infrastructure, almost assuredly that's in part to undermine the ability of the Mullah regime to reconstitute itself and provide the Iranian resistance the best chance to take them down once the conventional phase of our involvement has reached its conclusion. Over the next 3 weeks, those strikes are going to go up quite a bit. I mean, they said it, and both President Trump and Pete Hegseth and everybody else has said that. So it's not just like we're maintaining, 3 weeks. They're ramping up their strikes against all the regime's assets, including things that they're going to use that they could use to try and rebuild stuff, like rebuild drone factories or missile factories or pick whatever. And so the idea, even like bridges and stuff like inroads, that's designed in some ways to isolate the ability of patron states like Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, Chinese Communist Party, elements out of Pakistan, North Korea, Islamic wackadoodles to have clear avenues of ingress. right, to give material support to try and like reconstitute or rehabilitate, that the whatever elements of the Mullah regime that are left. I mean, it's not meant to punish the Iranian people. I mean, that's definitely something we don't want to do. It's just we have to look at it's like if you're doing surgery on a cancer patient, right? In this case, the patient's Iran and the Iranian people. The cancer is the Mullah regime, and I have to like cut some of that tissue out, and even some good tissue's got to come out, right, to get the cancer out. It's kind of like that, at least to the best of my assessment.
Danny.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the address last night. I didn't see much new information in what Donald Trump said, but it seems to me he was doing it in response to all of the narratives going around to undermine the war effort. I thought he very clearly articulated why this war is absolutely necessary, that he reiterated that the US isn't somehow losing the war or something. And most interestingly, he specifically used the phrase over the next 2 or 3 weeks at one point, which I see as clarifying that we're not doing a forever war. And he's giving a timeline to pacify those that wanted this operation to be done in a couple of days. Armin, no audio?
Sorry, the thing that people were waiting for was to see whether or not he's going to, because some people suspected that that speech was going to be the announcement that okay, we're done. I didn't expect that, but many people were just expecting that. So because no mention of negotiations being like successful or ceasefire being announced, because that was not part of his speech, oil prices went up right after his speech. So that was big that that was not there, right? Um, the thing that was the thing that was I mean, he mentioned this before, but now he came out and said like we're going to. The most important part of the speech was the fact that he put an ultimatum, said either you do a deal or we'll send you back to the dark ages, right? By destroying so much of what the infrastructure. That was pretty clear, and the fact that he already posted that before, but now that we keep going, like he keeps changing his um he keeps changing his deadline. He keeps changing his position regarding whether negotiations are going well or they're not going well. He keeps changing that, right? So he's now back on like threats. Like he was earlier, he was suggesting that okay, regime change. Like just before his speech, the reason why some people expected that this speech might be like the announcement of a ceasefire is because right before this, we were getting consistent messaging from so many people within the government, signs that they're trying to get out of it, right? So Marco Rubio was suggesting that oh, we already accomplished so many things. President Trump was saying oh, we already did regime change, or we're having great talks. These people are reasonable. These people are a lot more reasonable. And then now all of a sudden he comes out like, either you accept a deal or we're gonna, like destroy everything, right? And like, oh, I thought things were going well. What just happened, right?
But
So, so yeah, go on.
it's interesting then that he said next 2 or 3 weeks. Like that suggests that we're definitely not about to get a deal of any
Yeah,
kind.
but you can't take that serious. Like I know, but here's the thing. Like for example, he said there was a 5 day deadline, and then there was a 10 day deadline, and then like when he, for example, he gave his 5 day deadline. Like there was one time that he gave a deadline that he said like it would be exactly by the minute after this point I will do this, and then one day after he came out like, well, forget that, we have a new deadline. Right. So what is it like if he said like but 2 or 3 weeks, like in 1 week from now, so like oh actually maybe not. Like there's no, so I don't know, maybe maybe sometimes sometimes he's actually very so for example with the 12-day war, when he attacked, that was right on the deadline that he gave, like that was right on the deadline. So sometimes he's very consistent with the deadline that he gives, and then other times he keeps changing his deadline, and sometimes one day he comes and says like oh they're for sure they're gonna make a deal, they're for sure gonna make a deal. And then tomorrow he comes and says, If they don't make a deal, we're gonna blow everything up. Like, why are these people not making a deal? So I don't know. So this is interesting.
Yeah, it's not hard to
So
say
I don't know
that.
how much I take. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not hard to say that all of this is clearly bullshit, but it's really hard to say what exact type of bullshit it is.
Yeah, I mean, some people are saying it's confusing by design. Like he's playing 4D chess, 5D. I don't know how many Ds are there anymore. I don't know if that's the case. The effects are the same as if it was the case. I'm not one of those people who comes out and says like, I could read minds of President Trump, or like everything is like this genius plan that other people are underestimating. I'm not like that, but it doesn't really matter if it is that or not, because the effect of it at the end of the day is that it's confusing it's confusing. I mean, if it's confusing for us, it's confusing for the Islamic Republic. So that's the benefit of it. It's not good for the markets, I could tell you that. The markets hate unpredictability. So but it is good for confusing the Islamic Republic. So here's the thing: sometimes you're a genius and you're playing the madman strategy to confuse your enemy, but sometimes you are really a madman, but it still has the effect of being a genius and playing the madman strategy. So it doesn't really matter if you are a madman or just playing the role, it still has the same effect.
Next to respond, we have Ali.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay. All right. I'd imagine that the whole strategy of the regime was to hold out this entire time. And I think they got kind of hopeful that the pressure was getting to Trump and his administration to stop. And he
Mm.
didn't say anything about a deal. He didn't say anything about stopping. In fact, he said, we're going to continue. We're going to hit him harder. So if I'm the regime and my whole strategy has been bluffing and holding on as long as possible, I'm getting more and more scared now because it's like an unstoppable force hitting a unbreakable object kind of thing. So something's going to happen. I think that was really good. I think his speech was really good, personally.
Mm. So one thing regarding like what is really hard to determine is the effect on this on the Iranian people, right? So based on the people I'm in touch with, I'm getting the information that, what, blow whatever you need to blow up, just don't leave us with these people, right? Like the understanding from the people that I am in contact with, usually from Iranians, is that nothing is more damaging to our infrastructure and the entire country more than the Islamic Republic. So if you need to blow up whatever you need to blow up, whatever infrastructure you need to blow up to end the Islamic Republic, just go for it. Just go for it and do it, right? However, I'm seeing so many people are saying that, oh, this is going to turn the Iranian people against this military operations, and some of them even claim that it already has. And the interesting thing is, none of them provide an evidence for this, right? Nobody, like every person that says like, oh, the Iranian people are now against this military operation because the infrastructure and economic conditions that they have to face, like, okay, what, like, I always check like, okay, where's your source? Like, what are you seeing that we're not? So I don't believe them, but I don't also want to come up with a conclusion based on the people that I talk to. I mean, the people that I talk to are so anti-regime that they're willing to, like, I'm not even going to say finish that thought because I don't want to go there. But they are I mean, most Iranian people are very, very anti-regime. But I just want to make sure that I'm not giving a biased. I just want to be careful because there might be Iranians right now that I'm, because of the internet being disconnected, that I'm not hearing. But based on my experience, there's nothing. You might be able to find some anecdotal example of some people like, oh, I wanted these military operations, but now I don't. But based on everything that I know and have experienced with the Iranian people, that is going to be a minority. The number one fear that the Iranian people will have right now is, what if the Americans and Israelis leave without doing enough to be able for us to be able to topple the regime? That is the number one fear.
Let me add this too. That bridge that was blown up apparently was used for a while now to transport missiles and other military equipment. I don't know how valid that report is, but that was one of the reports that were coming out. But let's ignore that report completely, even if it's not true, which it might be. Whatever. Let's take a step back. Let's remove all of our biases and let's look at the evidence. The last test that was done proved that the Iranian people, even after weeks of bombardment and the massacre and everything, still came back out for Charshamba, Suri, and Nowruz. That's the last evidence that we have that the majority of the people in Iran still are approving of everything that's happening. And if we go with the overarching absolute rule that the biggest resource of Iran is its people, then it doesn't matter how many of these bridges we blow up anyway. And you already knew that.
But the thing is that is that something that many Iranian people understand as well? Like that's one thing that me and you understand, right? But I'm talking about the effect on the Iran. Like I suspect, based on what I've seen so far, is that nothing is going to be able to turn most Iranian people against this military operation. That's what I suspect. Okay, but I also want more data. Regards to infrastructure, of course, like I think it's obvious that the infrastructure that is being taken out is used by the IRGC and by the Islamic Republic. That goes without saying. That doesn't need like everything within the Iran's in this like within every infrastructure by the Islamic within Iran is used by the Islamic Republic. The thing is that it's also used by the people. Like it's not like we don't have separate infrastructure, like the infrastructure that is used by the regime by RGC. These are the set of infrastructure that the regime uses, and then we have these other sets of infrastructure that the people use. With that, there's no line of separation. That the infrastructure that the regime uses for its military and terroristics and suppression purposes are the same infrastructure that the Iranian people use to make a living and be able to pay to pay for their rent and for their food and their clothing and everything. So that is the issue. There's no line of separation.
Then I just want to say one last thing that we can wonder about. You don't have to address this if you don't want to. But over the last about 11 months now, since the banks failed and merged till now, we saw economic destruction of Iran. I think most people's lives have significantly, gotten worse. I don't know how much destroying these infrastructures are going to make it marginally worse versus
A
the
lot.
risk to
No,
benefit reward.
a lot. A
Okay.
lot. As bad as it has been, this is going to be much worse. Much worse. So, we have even with corruption and IRGC monopoly and this, what is it called when the state chooses winners and losers and gives some people some advantages. There's a word for that. Anyways, I forgot what that's called. But even with all of that, there is still the economy moving forward. With the infrastructure, it just halts it. With the infrastructure taken out, it just halts it. It just pauses it. It's not like it doesn't slows it down for so many people. So for so many people in Iran, because of the bad economic conditions, what they experience is lower income. Okay, but the that factory, that steel factory being bombed, it's not that you have lower income. You're not there's no more work. Like there is no work. Like that factory worker, there's nowhere to go right now to do any work. So it went from less income to like zero income. So that is a significant difference. Also, one thing else that worries me, by the way, is that my friend from Iran just messaged me on Telegram, and he said that one person has seen multiple Hashtashabi vehicles, like these Toyotas with the machine guns and stuff in the back, and so that is worrying to me that one individual has seen multiple. To me that suggests that I don't know if that his experience is reflective of what's going around in the country. But if it is, that means that maybe the Islamic Republic has managed to rebuild its suppressing ability by bringing in these forces from Iraq. So that's a concern.
Next to respond, we have Jeffrey.
Again, all very good points. I'll go through some of them very quick. So, as far as like the speech, a lot of people were concerned that President Trump was going to declare victory and then disengage. Indeed, leftist biased mainstream media, which find themselves co-aligned with the Mullah regime either for ideological reasons or opportunistically because they hate President Trump, have very much tailored their, either wittingly or unwittingly, have tailored their, I guess, self-initiated disinformation campaign to try and push for that. Actually, that was a concern and assessment that was displayed by one of the chief analysts for the Foundation of Defense of Democracies just this morning. As far as the duration of our operation, our timetable is condition based, and we are far ahead of schedule on achieving those conditions. That's very true. To Armin's point regarding there not being separate infrastructure for the Mullah regime and IRGC thugs versus Iranian people, that was very much by design by the Mullah regime as part and parcel of their urban shield strategy to try and turn any, what is it, tactical defeat into a soft power, asset. Oh, look at, you're destroying civilian infrastructure. Yeah, dude, you're using that for military stuff, right? Military activity. When they put schools next to IRGC bases and all that other shit. As far as, and so, I mean, that kind of like underwrites again the reason why we're targeting this infrastructure. It's not to punish Iranian citizens, the Iranian people. They don't get any benefit from this fucking infrastructure because the Mullah regime controls all of that, whether it's steel mills, even though it has historical significance because it was built by His Highness, you know, Mohammed Reza Pahlavi and the Pahlavi family. They don't control that. The Mullah regime controls that. They use that to support all their crazy crap, whether it's reconstituting military capability, bridges to try and transport missiles, or to build things for repressive forces. Like if you need, I don't know, steel I beams to kind of bolt bullshit, like support structure for you to shoot a machine gun on the back of a Toyota truck, as part and parcel of like leveraging technicals or improvised tactical vehicles. So that's why we're taking them out. And it's to flatten the curve, like also not just to undermine the ability of the Mullah regime to do the stupid stuff like launch whatever little missiles they have left. It's also to deny the Mullah regime access over critical infrastructure and further degrade their ability to repress Iranian people when they finally get the call to make the move. As far as lack of congruency regarding President Trump's messaging, that's due to two main things. One is our, duration is very much conditions based. That environment is fluid and ever changing, so you modify your approach on the fly. Couple that with, again, President Trump's version of Nixon's mad straight, president's strategy to leverage some level of operational ambiguity and offset the fact that representative republics and democracies, due to the very openness that defines them, have a disadvantage in strategic deception and denial. That's pretty much what I can give you in a nutshell. I'll turn it over to somebody else.
All right, let's go to next.
Next is Daniel Dome.
He said pass on to Hila. He said, okay, Hila.
So we'll tell you what I think. I don't know if we are still on the subject, but about the Trump speeches, what he say. I think that the real negotiation it's technicality. Someone on the field, like low rank, maybe a bit high rank, is talking to threatening people, engineering, military people, politician, people that close to the plate, whatever. And then because it's low rank and he's like pressuring the guy for like 2 months now or a week or 2 weeks or whatever, Trump need to say a few stuff in his own name, so it will be like, I'm telling you in the name of Trump, and you will see in the next speech he will do this or that. He will tell you, and so it's like it's like a show about like what's going on in the back, but it's not. It's just like giving signals, right? About like he's planting signals to the people that are getting threatening. And sometimes he's like, fuck the timeline that I gave because I don't want to talk to you anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
Carry on to the next person. It could be so many scenarios in this technicality stuff. I don't know how to explain it. So I don't think he's like speaking to us. I think some of it is speaking to them, trying to signal them, like, and some of them I think cooperate, and then if they don't do enough or they don't do it on time, or if they're playing with him, so he doesn't mind. Like in 2 weeks he will be dead, or 2 days, or whatever. Like he don't want to talk to us anymore. Okay, sababa. Carry on. And I do think they talk to like 20 people at a time, 200 people at a time, not like a one person. It's like when you're hunting or like when you're fishing. So it's like fishing with a net.
All right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see who he's talking to. Okay.
That we cannot know, like what's really
Yeah.
going on. Only the strategy.
Okay,
Okay.
next
Who's
to respond, we have Shadi.
Shadi?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Oh, we can. Oh, perfect. Okay, so I am one of those people that are not a big fan of him blowing up infrastructure. And it's not because I don't see, like, of course, we can build the new stuff and all of that once the regime is gone. And the priority is that the regime gets gone. But the thing is, I can't see why he's like, at the same time, he's speaking about, oh, the regime already changed, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna blow them out. I'm gonna blow Iran back to the Stone Age. He has not said a single thing about helping the people since the beginning of the war. And all of these things are gonna affect the people of Iran. I'm not saying they're gonna go back to protecting the regime, because they will not, probably. I highly doubt they will, but it also affects their mindsets. And a lot of people get upset by him speaking in that way. So I mean, okay, if you need to blow up all the infrastructure, go ahead and do it. But don't come out and say, oh, the regime already changed. Instead, say, okay, we have an objective to change the regime and help the people. But in order to do that, we will need to blow up the infrastructure or something like that. And I also saw that Lindsey Graham, that always spoke about regime change and always was kind of said the opposite of what Trump was saying in a way, came out and said that I hope a diplomatic solution can be achieved that will ensure the regime will never go back to the old ways. Like, what do you mean not go back to the old ways? It's like they're speaking about reform. So I was just wondering what you think about that, because it's like, it feels like sometimes all you hear is one-sided good things about Trump, like Trump, of course, he means this, but we don't really know what he means. Like, it could just
Yeah.
as well be the opposite. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm actually not even convinced that he knows what he means sometimes. But um I mean, every time he says regime, there is regime change. Well, I mean, that's obviously false. Okay. But again, there's a narrative that, well, don't take him literally. He doesn't really mean it. Again, I'm not gonna say that, right? And it's interesting because the White House speaker came out, and she also, Caroline Levitt, what's her name? Yeah, she came out and said, "Well, regime has changed. Didn't it change?" I mean, if that's not the definition of regime change. If that is regime change, then the United States goes through regime change once every 2 years in based on that definition. If there's any change in the regime, that you don't call it regime change because there has been change in the regime, right? So that is inaccurate. However, it to me, that has like an internal audience in the U.S. Okay, because I think the Americans don't know whether they're going to have regime change or not, right? But like, and I don't think that they are as determined as to do regime change in Iran as the Israelis. Like, not even close. Not even close, right? And they don't know if it's possible. They realize that it's more possible than ever before after what the Iranian people did in early January, but they don't know if they're going to be regime change. But because they signaled President Trump in his speech earlier when he said, "Hey, the Iranian people, this is your chance, come do this," it made it obvious that that was one of their aims. So so internally in the US, if it became obvious that you guys were aiming for regime change and then we didn't get regime change, so this could be seen as a loss by Americans that they were trying to do regime change and it didn't happen. So President Trump to me seems like he's trying to, you know, protect himself by suggesting that we already had regime change, right? And I mean, the average voter is not going to go look up the actual definition of a regime change. They're like, well, I mean, they did kill this Khamenei, so I guess that's kind of a regime change. So just in case that you want to make sure that internally the Americans see this as a win, and because you don't know whether or not you're going to have regime change, it is better for internal political reasons to just announce this as a regime change that has already been achieved. The most charitable, so here let's go through all the scenarios. The worst scenario is that these people have no idea what they're talking about. The middle and interpretation, the middle ground interpretation is that this is for internal politics. But the most charitable perspective is here's a 4D chess version of all of this, right? President Trump is saying that so that the Islamic Republic thinks like, oh, okay, they're not going to do regime change because he thinks he has already done regime change. Whew, okay, so we're safe, right? Like maybe we'll survive this, and then wham, and he comes from. So that could be like a more charitable interpretation of what's going on here. It's just to confuse your enemy, right? And then we're all getting confused because of it as well, because he's trying to confuse the enemy. That's the most positive interpretation of this. So when you say that, I know the Iranian people would get upset by President Trump if he destroys the infrastructure. Again, this is really hard to measure right now, right? And I'm here. I want to be honest with you guys, right? My experience, like, because if I was like, guys, if I didn't want to tell you the truth and it was all about, oh, look at me, I know everything, right? I would come out and say, well, these are what my connections in Iran are saying. So this represents the Iranian people. But because I want to be careful with what I tell you guys, I have to be honest with you guys. Like, my connections to Iranian people are the most anti regime people you could find. Right, based on my experience with the, and to be fair, that's based on everything we've seen, that's what most Iranian people are like, right? But there might be a slight bias towards people who think like me, right? So the reason why I say that is just because I don't want to bullshit you guys, right? And I'm not saying this is not the case. I'm just saying, like, we have to be careful. But it's really hard for Iranian people to hate President Trump because he's responsible for Khamenei being dead right now, right? So that is something that we couldn't even imagine, happening just like that. Like, this has been the greatest dream of many Iranian people for so many decades. So he has bought so much goodwill that, like, if you ask so many Iranians, hey, would you, like, even without regime change, would you pay the price of this infrastructure being blown up if it means Khamenei dies as well? So many Iranian people are like, yes, yes, I will pay that price. Kill that motherfucker, right? So I'm not saying it has no influence. I've already seen some Iranians are like, stop it. Like, what are you doing? Like, I have seen that. It's not like it doesn't exist, right? I've even seen it from some people who are really important. Like, I've seen it, for example, here, let me tell you, for example. Saeed Qasim which is Princess of Pahlavi's main number one advisor, right? When President Trump said that we might blow up Khark Island completely, he was complaining about, like, he was like, no, like this is not going to help. Like, what are you guys doing, right? So, and he's somebody with a lot of information, very close to Princess of Pahlavi. So, and he's not somebody who we could just dismiss as just like a few people, right? He also reflects maybe the views of many Iranians. So we have to take that seriously. So among the regime, so maybe we could divide among anti-regime Iranians. Maybe we could divide it into three camps. The camp who are like, you guys have done more to attack the Islamic Republic than anyone else, Israel and United States. There's nothing you could do for us to hate you. And if you need to blow up factories and bridges to get rid of the Islamic Republic, just go for it. But at the other end, we have the anti-regime people who are like hating right now what is happening. This is not going to help us. Please stop, right? And very aggressively, even though they're anti-regime, even though they appreciate the Americans and Israelis killing like the Khamenei and everybody, they're like, this is not like they're raising their voices against what's happening right now. Like, please say keep our infrastructure intact. And then there are people in the middle who are like really, really, really upset that the infrastructure is being destroyed, but at the same time they're not really complaining about it. They're like, well, I guess please somebody do something. That please somebody tell them that if there's a way to do this without destroying the infrastructure, do it that way. But at the same time, they don't want to turn against the military operations. They don't want the Americans to leave, right, before they actually take out more of the Islamic Republic. And if you tell them, well, this is the only way, they're like, I guess okay. So those are the middle people. It's like a spectrum.